Hello, and welcome to the Argyle HR Leadership Forum, Next Gen Innovation for HR Leaders. My name is Nick with Argyle, and it's great to have everyone joining us today. I have some important information to share with you, and then we will turn the floor over to our esteemed opening keynote speaker. First, we would like to take a moment to thank today's sponsors, Alight, ICIMS, and Eightfold AI. Our sponsors are committed to providing you with valuable content and a great overall experience. At any time during today's event, you can visit their virtual booths from the main agenda page, which include complimentary materials, information, and meet and greet opportunities. We also welcome you to stay socially connected during today's event. For those of you who are active on social media, please use the hashtag ArgyleDigital to follow us at Argyle Exec Forum. Also, be sure to follow Argyle on LinkedIn for special announcements. I would like to take a moment to touch on our content neutrality policy, which we have curated based on the feedback we have received over the years from our members. We have worked closely with our speaking faculty to ensure that you receive a set of balanced and neutral viewpoints during the session today, and we appreciate our members' support of this policy. Finally, and most importantly, we want to hear from you. So during each session, we encourage you to submit your questions and comments in the Q&A box on your screen. Following each presentation, we have set aside time for our speakers to weigh in on your questions. Thank you again for joining us today. Now, let's get started. Without further ado, I would like to introduce Dr. Serena Huang, renowned AI and HR technology expert, Data with Serena. We're super excited to have Serena for her opening keynote presentation titled GenAI in HR, From Hype to Reality. Welcome, Serena. Over to you.
Thank you so much for having me, Nick. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's session on GenAI in HR. I'm Dr. Serena Huang. I'm speaker, founder at Data with Serena. I also have created 3 courses on LinkedIn Learning on people analytics if you want to check it out. I would love to stay connected. If you want to use the QR code to follow me on LinkedIn. For many years, I have built people analytics functions at companies like GE, Kraft Heinz, and PayPal. And I had seen firsthand on how data and human experiences intersect. I had always enjoyed sharing my knowledge and decided last year to take it full time. So I founded Data with Serena, and I now am a professional speaker and corporate trainer on topics like data and AI. I also want to thank the organizers for putting the show on together for us to learn with each other. I now host events, so I know how challenging it is. So thank you for putting this together. Today, we're going to talk about a very timely topic, Gen AI. And I'm going to share with you from my experience in implementing AI, how you can go from hype to reality. Today, I want to have a balanced discussion. There's a lot of hype around AI, and with that comes with sometimes unrealistic expectations of what Gen AI can do. So we're going to talk about the power and pitfall of Gen AI. Do you remember this headline from last year? A lawyer got into trouble for using ChatGPT to help do his job. And turned out ChatGPT had shared some cases that didn't really exist. Now, a year later, we are hearing a lot of what Gen AI can do. It seems like every day we're hearing news on development, whether it's the company OpenAI or the technology itself. Now, let's start with the power of Gen AI. Who is using Gen AI today, and how are they using it? The 3 areas I want to share today are talent acquisition, L&D, and the CHROs themselves. These are some early adopters of Gen AI in our world today. How is talent acquisition or recruiting teams using Gen AI? Well, they are using it to do a lot of tasks today. According to the latest I4CP survey, they're using GenAI to create job descriptions. They're emailing candidates, hiring managers, they're even drafting offer letters. They're using it to match people with better opportunities. I don't know which one sticks out to you, but for me, I found it very interesting that they're using it to generate offer letters. So I decided that maybe I will be a recruiter for a day. So how could we use GenAI to create an offer letter? So I use my favorite GenAI tool, and this is my prompt. I said, create an offer letter to job candidate Super Mario for the role of super data analyst with annual salary of 100,000, bonus target 10% in La La Land office. And I included some other details. Within less than 1 second, GenAI created a full offer letter, and then with one click, it actually gave me a nicely formatted Google Doc that I can export. So it included all the things that you would expect in an offer letter and everything I included. So I checked the accuracy, seems like it's including everything. It's got the salary, it's got bonus details. To my surprise, it added something else. So it added benefits that, remember, in my prompt, I did not include anything about 401k or health insurance. But because it knows that most offer letters include such details, it's including in a draft for me. So this is an excellent reminder. So we can all now create offer letters and become recruiter for a day. Very interesting. Well, I was very impressed. I don't think I want the job of a recruiter still, but if I needed to, I can create offer letters. Thank you, AI. Now, moving on to learning and development. I have lots of friends in L&D, and every time I bring up Gen AI, they tend to roll their eyes at me. And they tell me this personalized learning journeys or the Netflix of learning is so 2008. Well, I don't know if it's 2008, but it certainly existed for a very long time. So besides learning journeys that we can use AI to create, how else is L&D using Gen AI? Turns out a few other areas. One, you can use Gen AI to update materials. One of the most challenging things with learning and development is you have to continue to go into the system. Once the information is out of date, you have to update them. It's quite manual. It takes a long time. With Gen AI, you can have materials that are updated automatically. So, for example, in digital marketing, where trends are constantly changing, Gen AI can provide the latest trends on customers' preference, and that could be part of your course material in the system without you doing any manual work. Gen AI can also help us address skill gaps in more real time. Traditionally, we only talk about learning plans maybe once a year in a large organization, but Gen AI can look at things like your project management systems and see project outcomes and use that to see how you are doing on certain tasks and create a learning plan in much more real time to address those gaps. Finally, it can also create feedback in more real time. Again, unless you're working with a coach 24/7 or a mentor 24/7, chances are on the new lessons you want to learn, you may not get feedback until much later. And that creates a delay in how we develop employees. So Gen AI has offered the opportunity for us to now have personal private tutors wherever, whenever we want on topics that we're interested in learning. So the last one got my attention, and I'm curious how we can use Gen AI to have a mentor at home. So I'm starting to learn some Spanish, and I decided to use Gen AI to help me. So my prompt for Gen AI today is I'm having trouble understanding no tengo fotos contigo, pero en la pared tengo un espacio. Can you explain it to me? Okay, so I asked nicely. Let's see, what do you think we'll get? A translation or some explanation? Turns out you are getting both. So it's listing out by bullet, breaking down what it means, and then it's going to interpretations, including how the person may be expressing affection and showing how they value the relationship. This is very interesting, but I noticed something. I originally said, no tengo fotos contigo, pero en la pared tengo un espacio. It added, para ti, means for you. So I said, hello, AI. Are you sure? The original sentence doesn't have para ti in it. Guess what it did? It instantly apologized and recognizes the mistake it made. You're absolutely right. Now, it's redoing the translation interpretation, and it's saying these are interpretations without that word. It's less direct, but it could still mean something like we want to deepen the relationship with the listener. Well, I don't know about you, I was pretty impressed. This is a really excellent Spanish teacher, and GenAI has huge capabilities when it comes to language learning for all of us. So that's L&D. Now, are CHROs using GenAI? You bet they are. In fact, they're using it to do a lot of work, like email writing. They're making presentations with GenAI's help. They're creating HR policies and implementing chatbots to answer some questions. The one that was very interesting to me as well is they're using it for analytics. They are looking at employee surveys with GenAI's help. Traditionally, this may fall in different teams, whether it's employee listening or people analytics, to look at surveys, come up with recommendations. But now with GenAI, you can be that expert as well. So I'm excited to see our CHROs are also adapting the technology. So lots of excitement, lots of power of GenAI. So what can go wrong? Well, it turns out a lot. First of all, GenAI isn't always right. You just saw that it's adding words sometimes that's not meant to be there from the examples I gave. You might remember this very recent headline from Air Canada. Their chatbot had interpreted the policy incorrectly and promised a discount that it didn't actually offer. And after the court decision come out, they said the airline had to honor it because chatbots had promised a discount. And then the customer did not know that they need to read the policy in detail. Of course, the customer believed the chatbot because it said, yes, you will get the discount. So GenAI is not always right. It does appear very confident, which makes it difficult for us to know whether or not it's correct or we should check the results. A second risk with GenAI is with deepfakes. Do you remember this news? It can be very expensive as well. In the Air Canada example, it was only a few $100s. In this case, a worker in Hong Kong got a video call from the CFO and another colleague, and they requested a total of $25 million over 15 transactions. And while this employee had some doubts, it seemed so real with the video, and he believed them. He transferred $25 million over the course of time. So deepfakes are really challenging to detect. We now see examples of this and other scams that might be coming our way. So something perhaps for you to consider is what additional education and training do we need to provide to our employees going forward? And the next time you get a call from your CHRO or your CEO, are you going to wonder whether or not that's real? Or is it AI generated? The third risk we cannot skip talking about that's really challenging is AI's impact on job loss. You might have seen this headline also very recently that the fintech company had partnered with OpenAI, and their AI assistant is doing the job of about 700 people. This was raising a lot of eyebrows because they also laid off about 700 people a few months ago. Now, this chatbot is incredible. They have already handled 2.3 million conversations, and it's projected to save about $40 million for the company this year. And I realize there's tons of articles out there that are trying to calm us down and say AI is here to augment and not replace humans. It is naive to think that AI hasn't started to impact jobs. So, what do you do with that information? A recent speech from the CEO of LinkedIn said we are now moving towards a skills based workforce strategy. Instead of being role based, meaning we're planning based on how many jobs, we're now planning based more on skills. What skills are needed to do a job? And if you think about it, AI is starting to replace skills and tasks for what we do in our day to day. So if you were to create a strategy thinking about the impact of AI, you could break down the roles into what skills AI can help today and maybe tomorrow, and how that's going to impact your workforce. If AI is impacting a small percentage of a role, say less than 20%, you may not have to worry too much. But if AI is able to do 30 plus percent, 50 plus percent of someone's role, it's time to start thinking about reassignment for these roles. If you want to learn a little bit more about that, I actually created a whole course on LinkedIn on this very topic and how you can use data to create skills first workforce strategy. I have tossed the full title there so you can look it up after. Now, finally, the last risk I'll touch on is bias. We can't talk about the risk of AI without talking about bias. In a very recent experiment that was covered by Bloomberg, they found that ChatGPT makes biased recommendations when it comes to hiring selections. So what they did was they had generated different resumes that are very similar, but they had different names that represent different gender and race. For this particular one, like financial analyst, ChatGPT pretty consistently ranked Black Americans as least likely to be a top candidate. They did this for some other jobs, and they found that in general, women of all race and ethnic groups are great candidates for HR roles, and men are rated at the bottom. So it's very clear that ChatGPT is reinforcing the stereotypes and what currently exists in our workforce. So this concerns me, as a lot of experts out there are saying we can use AI to do hiring decisions and is saving recruiters a lot of time. There needs to be other rules in process in helping them use AI properly before the decisions are made. And we see the diversity issues replicated in the hiring decision. I actually saw this firsthand in one of the recruiting technology I implemented a few years ago. Now, this AI recruiting tool is supposed to improve diversity. And so what it did was it scans through resumes, and based on the activities and the name, it would guess what race and gender the candidate is. Why would it need to do that? Well, first of all, remember the last time you applied for a job? Did you share your race and gender at the end of the application? I don't know if you did, but many candidates don't. And we wanted to use such AI technology to help us improve diversity. so that we can tell how the decision making is going and where women and minorities potentially drop off in the hiring process. Now, with this AI's tool, we were very excited about possibilities. What we noticed was that it seems to have a hard time guessing the gender and race of certain roles. Applicants to certain roles, this AI tool is having a hard time. And turns out we looked into it a little bit further and we found that it was having a hard time in this particular function that attracted a lot of Asian candidates. And because of the names are sometimes difficult to tell gender-wise, it will have a difficult time. Now, this, fortunately, we were able to find out during the testing process. We ended up recommending to turn off this particular feature because it's not able to deliver what it's supposed to do. So I learned a lot from this process. The other strange observation we had, again, all during the testing process, was that the recruiting tool was recommending candidates that resemble our current workforce. Well, it's because it's recognizing the hires and current workforce as success cases. So it's making recommendations that look like our current workforce, which is great if you're looking to replicate a team, but not so much if you are looking to improve diversity. So again, we end up recommending turning off certain features. And most importantly, we recommended that hiring managers will be able to see all the names, all the candidates, and they would choose, if they want to see the AI ranked candidates based on skills and experiences and not demographic data. So a lot of lessons learned. And for you, if you are thinking about implementing a Gen AI tool or just pondering the possibilities, here's my takeaways for you to go from hype to reality. First of all, you are here. You're obviously excited about Gen AI. But if you're the only one who is excited about it in your department, you may not be working on the right problems. Think about what's keeping your leadership team up at night. What are your CHROs worried about? What are your CEO worried about? Those are the problems we're solving, and then think about how Gen AI can help. And second, definitely keep human in the loop when it comes to talent decisions that impact people. I'm glad that we did the testing properly before signing that 7-figure contract. And finally, I definitely recommend that you try it yourself and stay curious. There's tons of potential with Gen AI, as we have seen just now in L&D and TA and for HR leadership team. For individuals, there are 3 C's where Gen AI can help improve our productivity. The 3 C's are communication, collaboration, and culture. In fact, I've started to help organizations with hands-on workshops to improve their employees' communication, collaboration, and culture building. I will be sharing some of these really interesting lessons learned along the way on my LinkedIn. So if you want to follow along and check out some of my prompts, please follow me on LinkedIn and we'll share this together. With that, I will close and open up to questions.
Great. Yeah, here's a question from the audience, Doctor. How can we strike a balance between leveraging the power of Gen AI for efficiency and maintaining a human-centric approach in HR processes?
That is a tough one, right? I think it's going back to focusing on how do we leave what humans are good at to humans and what AI is great at to AI. And in terms of hiring, for example, perhaps listing out the tasks that are really difficult to do for humans, but AI can do a fantastic job with ease and leave that to AI. I think that will give you a more balanced approach. And certainly in lots of organizations, I've discovered now they have something called responsible AI teams. It could be called ethical AI. And think about collaborating with them and figure out what principles your organization uses when it comes to AI and decision making. Lots of organizations use it on the customer side, for example, with different algorithms, and you can apply the same rules within the human space.
Great. And here's another question from the audience. Can you share some best practices for ensuring responsible implementation of Gen AI in HR, particularly in minimizing bias risks and maintaining fairness?
Right. Bias and fairness, as we just saw, that AI is going to look for patterns in the past and often will replicate that patterns in the past. And that's where a lot of bias and issues come in. I think my recommendation has been do proper testing and set up a way to monitor the decision-making process. So for example, you could see how decisions are made on hiring front in the past. Perhaps you are selecting X% woman in the process. When you implement the AI solution, do you end up selecting more or less? And use that previous decision as potentially a starting point, not necessarily a benchmark, because perhaps you want to improve it, but at least you know how you're comparing in your human-only decision-making and your AI-assisted decision-making. So definitely check that. I, in the past, had created processes where we would monitor the decision-making on a quarterly basis. We will review all the decisions made and see where problems might exist, where we need to adjust the process.
Great. And here's another question. How can Gen AI specifically enhance our recruitment process? And what practical steps can we take to integrate this technology effectively?
Yeah, hiring definitely is one of the most important decisions that organizations make, right? In fact, it's the most expensive decision we have to make as an organization. And there's a lot of applications when it comes to the selection process, the screening process. For example, in the assessment space, you could use AI to help with video interviews and actually assessing whether or not a candidate has particular skill to do the job. So that is one potential application we didn't talk about earlier. The other piece around selection, of course, it can go through resumes faster than humans, but there's a lot of potential issues and guardrails we need to think about. But that, instead of focusing on every single piece of information on a resume, perhaps focus on the skills. And instead of making assumptions like if you went to a particular college, then you must be better than those, focus on the skills and what the candidates can actually do with assessments and other ways to objectively evaluate the candidates.
Great. And I think we can squeeze in one more question. We have about a minute left. Can you elaborate on the long-term benefits of incorporating Gen AI into HR strategies and how it contributes to the overall sustainability of an organization?
Right. Well, HR we've had a difficult time, right? This is a safe space. Since COVID started, this is the function that had to be really on the front line. I don't think there's enough appreciation for what HR does. And there's a lot of burnout in this function. And I think this is a perfect time to introduce Gen AI to help us with a lot of things that maybe were very manual. Think about reporting, the really boring reporting you have to do, the presentations that you have to repeatedly put together, the communication, and how AI can help you make your life a little bit better and easier today. I think a lot of HR organizations are having a hard time solving burnout for the organization, and we sometimes forget to take care of ourselves. So I would love to see us use Gen AI to take care of us better as HR leaders.
Great. And thank you again, Serena, for an excellent keynote. I
Thank
also
you
want
so
to
much.
thank everyone else for joining us today. This session, along with all of today's content, will be available on demand following the event. As a reminder, please be sure to check out the prizes and raffle rules section to see how you can earn points for the chance to win one of several prizes. Our next session will begin at 11:35 a.m. Eastern Time, which will be a panel discussion titled Hiring Talent for Skill Sets and Qualities. Please click the join button that will appear on your screen to be redirected to the next session, and we look forward to seeing you there.